Hello, I'm Peter Leary. I'm here to talk about courage. Courage. Courage is a virtue, and by its very nature, does not fall within the bounds of any set definition. The concept of courage has been explained by so many philosophers, soldiers, and ditch diggers that their views could fill a plethora of books. Webster's Dictionary defines courage as the state or quality of mind or spirit that enables one to face danger and overcome fear. This suitably vague definition is roughly the guideline that most people will attribute to this virtue. However, it can also be fleshed out by the words of a number of philosophers. Aristotle is one of the greatest and well-known of these philosophers. In his book, Nicomachean Ethics, spelled Nicomachean, he talked in great lengths about courage and fear. And he defined courage as any act that overcomes fear. Thus, by this definition, a fearless man, though he defied death, still would not be courageous. Where a boy who conquered their fear of the dark would be courageous. Another facet of Aristotle's definition was that all courage was equal. The same boy who conquered his fear of the dark was equally courageous with a besieged military commander against insurmountable odds. The last attribute of Aristotle's courage was that it was like a muscle. The more you used it, the better it got. The more courageous you were, the easier acts of courage became. Another view of courage is embodied in the phrase, "Angels rush in, fools rush in, where angels fear to tread." This view holds that there is a point at which courage becomes foolishness or lunacy. It takes Aristotle's definition and puts boundaries around it. Instead of any act of overcoming fear, it is any act of overcoming fear within reason. Adherents to this view might use the example of a family defending their house. Were they to throw out 2 or 3 thieves in the night, that would be courageous. But to defy an army who threatened to burn their house, that would be lunacy. Both of these views have used an act, the act of overcoming fear, as their defining point. Thus, by looking at courageous actions, you can learn more about courage. And one thing you learn is that courage is contagious. Take, for instance, Mahatma Gandhi. He was a lawyer who professed a fear of authority. Yet he overcame that fear and inspired a nation to revolt, to throw off British rule, and to govern themselves. His courage inspired thousands. Another example is of the Spartan warrior Leonidas. When told that the army of Xerxes was coming to invade his land, he volunteered to stand alone in a narrow pass to hold the army at bay. so that the cities beyond the pass would have time to fortify their defenses. His courage inspired 300 more warriors to stand with him, and they held off the army for a day. Their own 300 wounding 10,000 of the opposing army, and giving their citizens time to prepare their defenses. Both of these examples lend credence to something that people say every day. If you do it, I'll do it. If you are courageous, I will use your inspiration to make me courageous. Another thing that can be gleaned from looking at these acts are that courage is viewed through value systems. Were a man to defy his fear of hell and murder 10,000 children, he would not be courageous. Yet not all of these examples are as black and white. Most are gray. Is it courageous to support abortion or pro-life? Courage is in the eyes of the beholder. In conclusion, although the thoughts of mankind are widely arrayed on the concept of courage, even though one man's courage is another man's foolishness, even though all acts of courage may not be equal, there are unifying aspects which run through most views of courage. These common aspects are very similar to Webster's definition, with a few minor changes, taking into account both the lives and words of men and women throughout history. A better definition might read, courage is a virtue that exemplifies an individual's triumph over fear in order to do something righteous and rational.